Hello, it's great to see you here again. My name is Lucas and we'll talk about Marvel Future Fight. And before starting, I'm going to ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. If you made your way through here, it's either because you like the game, you're interested in content I produce, or you're going to be notified of future videos and live streams. So I want to talk about Gambit. I know Gambit has been in the game for quite a while. It's not a new character, but I still have see a lot of people talking about him and having questions about how they should gear him up, how they should build Gambit, and what would be the best use of Gambit, which obelisk would be better, which CDP would be better. So that's pretty much why I'm doing the video. Now we recently have Carol Danvers being added to the game, and I say that because I know she is in the game since forever, since launch, but just now we actually have her in the game. You know, she was just a faint version of Captain Marvel before that, and now we actually have a character that can deal some pretty good damage. So while I'm not gonna cover her in this video, she was the main motivator to me to talk and make this video about Gambit, because they are pretty much alike. I really like characters that are not uber meta. So they are not a Scarlet Witch, they are not a Deadpool, that they can survive pretty much anything, deal a lot of damage, and don't have anything to worry about. So I really like a character like Gambit that I have to actually, made some choices. Will I increase his survivability, which is definitely lacking? Will I make full potential of his damage, and how that's going to work? So I want to show a little bit about the Gambit I have here and how I have equipped him, and then show a little bit about the fight of him doing curves, and talk a little bit about the strategy I use in the fight. Alright, so this is the team that I usually use if I'm not facing higher level word bosses. So if I'm anything 35 lower, I probably use this team with Gambit. That's because they have some bonuses, they have a good synergy, they look cool, and they have now a love triangle here, which is more than enough reason for you to use them. But also because Magneto has a good leadership for anything mutant-like, and actually, in that way, I can guarantee, so if I went to team bonus and see what I have here, I can see that Gambit is going to always use his 5th skill if he's the character on the screen. So that's exactly what I want. So there's only one other character that Gambit does that. You see other combos, he's going to be using a different skill, and that's not really good. So with the 3 of them, I can guarantee that he's going to use his 5th skill, and that's how he's going to behave. If I have a higher level, the only thing I do, I switch rogue, sorry, Shahi, but I usually use some support that can deal extra damage against supervillains. That's pretty much how I use Gambit. So talking about Gambit a little bit, so let me jump up here, and just so I'm ranked 419 at the time I record this video. I know that won't last forever, but I'm very proud where he is and where he stands right now. So you can see I don't have anything maxed out at this point. The only thing I have maxed out is Ignore Defense, and that's for just a little bit. And then everything else, including cooldown, I have at 48%. Critical rate, I usually aim my characters, or at least my main characters, to have 50% at least, and critical damage somewhere between 150 and 200. And that's because I want them to crit at a regular hit and give some good loaded damage. Other things that he has Ignore Dodge because of the obelisk I have on him, but I'm going to cover that a little ahead. Okay, talking about his equipment. So they are obviously all at 25, and I have done always amplifying at least 4 of them. And I know that I should amplify his attacks, but my COD actually doesn't allow me to do that, and I have to use always the 2 energy attacks on top. I know, shame on me, but that's how my brain works. So I usually use 2 energy attacks, 2 critical rate for the first 2, and then HP. I tend to use HP in all my characters just because, they're dealing with ward bosses. HP is an important stat, it may be that extra mile that he's going to need to finish, or, has extra hit point that he's going to need to be alive, and actually, hit the healing blow, the killing blow. So that's pretty much what I have. So the first two I have of that, and the 3 and 4 actually the only thing I switched is I removed the crit ones and added a skill cooldown, and that's because Gambit doesn't have skill cooldown in any of his equipment, which is kind of a shame. You know, if you see all of them, I don't have skill cooldown on any of them, so it's something that you gotta be careful with Gambit. I would definitely switch this crowd control time for, you know, reduce cooldown, but that's now they did it. But anyway, it's working for me. It's fine. It is. I could, you know, compensate with my cards and everything. So I have all his skill maxed out. Obviously, I didn't use time because obviously I'm pretty much a PvE player, so I don't care about PvP at all. So I don't see actually a need to improve this other than, you know, getting my rank up at this point. So all the world bosses that we're fighting at this point are universal, so he wouldn't benefit anything from this, so I couldn't care less. And he has, for ISO 8 sets, I have Overdrive set on him. And thanks whoever subscribed while I'm recording this video, but I'm gonna continue for now. But thank you for the subscription. So we have two attack ISOAs here, and for, you know, actually the chaotic, I have critical rate and critical damage with dodge. That was not exactly what I wanted him dodge, because he doesn't have a high dodge rate, and you can see in the fight he is only 33%. But you know, that's what I had. I rather have him with dodge and have a 40% all attack than anything else, and 30% all attack. And then we get to his custom gear. And Gambit is actually, you know, I see a lot of people saying, you know, use a CDP of energy in him, because he's be doing most damage he can. Or use a CDP of refinement on him. I'm not even getting into CDP of regeneration, because they are brand new in the game. I honestly don't have an opinion about, you know, how good they are yet. I'm looking forward to get my hands in a CDP of rage to see how that's going to work. But so far, you know, I'm still with the old mindset. Basically, I know he likes survivability. I know I could use a CTP of refinement to keep him alive. But, you know, like I mentioned before, I like these characters that are not actually complete, and you have to master them. So he's not a Scarlet Witch, he's not a Deadpool, he's not a character that I can pretty much smash my buttons here, or you know, Sharon Rogers in the old days, that I could, you know, just face tank and smash my buttons and pretty much, you know, kill the boss. So I really like being able to, you know, pay attention to the battlefield, see where I stand, not make anything stupid, dying a couple times. I'd rather die or redo the battle 2 or 3 times, but getting the max damage and be able to do it at higher levels than get him surviving and not doing that. So this obelisk here, and this is what I mentioned, Gambit is one of the few characters that I think that actually don't need an obelisk, don't need a CTP. Obviously, you know, if you are a huge investor in the game, if you have a lot of CTPs to spare, if you invest a lot of crystals and, you know, you have nobody else to use it, put it in Gambit. Gambit is going to definitely benefit of a CTP of energy. But he doesn't need it. That's a fact. You know, this obelisk that I have here would be perfect if I have a 200 damage proc. It's 180 at this point, but it has the other 2 stats that I want, which is ignore, dodge, and snare. And that's basically because, you know, I do Corvus a lot. You know, I like to tier 3 speed characters, so Corvus is one of the characters that I had the most hard time trying to face. I know that today he is considered one of the easiest ones, but, you know, I like it. So since I use Gambit for him most of the time, I like to have ignore, dodge, and his obelisk. I definitely like to have immunity to snare, not only for Corvus, but for most world bosses. They have a lot of snare effects, and that can help me a lot, especially if I have to move him on the battlefield. The only thing that I would be missing here that, no, obviously we can have 4 stats in an obelisk, would be immunity to guard break. But he can live without it, definitely live without it. He doesn't need it. It is a nice to have feature in him. And like I said, if this obelisk have 200% proc, it would be perfect to me. At least to me. So I definitely wouldn't put a CTP of refinement hand, wouldn't put a CTP of energy unless I have a lot of CTPs of energies to spare. But even though I would be missing the immunity to snare effect, I don't think that, you know, having him the crit damage on that would compensate at any form. Obviously, he doesn't have a uniform yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So I like to show a record that I did that I thought I actually didn't want to go all the way to the end, but Gambit was faster than me. So let's go to the fight and I can talk a little bit about what's going on here. So I'm using level 40 here, and some remarks that I want to do regarding this fight is, first of all, I'm using anti-venom. So the reason I'm using anti-venom is not having to redo the fight. So instead of adding a CTP of refinement on him and having him lower damage, I'd rather lose 10% of his damage or attack and have anti-venom on the field yet. You can see in this fight that I use very little of the healing, but they are there in case I need it. You know, for those of you who watch my live streams, you know that it's a 50-50% chance. Sometimes I don't use anti-venom at all and use Sue Storm instead, just for her charm effect. And same reason that I have Scarlet Witch here. I'm not caring about the damage bonus she does, but instead about her mind control that can, you know, and you can see here, he didn't activate on his 5th bar level because he was mind controlled at the time. I even switched to Valkyrie and I had to switch back to Gambit because I actually didn't need it. So Gambit has this debuff, but even in Thanos, you know, when he is not affected by debuff, he still does a lot of damage. So it is definitely a good character. And one thing you have to pay attention whenever you're using anti-venom is that if Gambit is using one of his iframes, and you see that for most of the fight I'm going to use only 2 skills. There is 5 for dealing damage and 3 to getting out of damage. 3 is an iframe, so I can use 3 in 2 ways. I can actually move away.
Meu amigo Saci está em perigo. Uma onça gosta de comer o Saci.
Okay, but I'm recording a video.
Agora o pai tem pai.
Say hi to everybody then.
Papai tem pai. Tirar uma flecha de borracha com uma agulha.
Alright.
Agora você tem que.
I will continue the video, okay?
Você tem que jogar uma flecha.
Thank you. So that was my son participating on the video. So, going back to what I was saying here. So, basically I use 2 skills. I use Gambit skill 3, pretty much trying to get away from the damage. So I can either move away from the boss, or I can move towards the boss and have this last movement to bring him, you know, 1 extra hit to the boss, but to the other side. I usually do that to avoid those purple attacks that I have. Sometimes when Corvus does exactly this, what he did on the screen right now, that his undodgeable attack, I have to switch to another character. So I have Valkyrie and Magneto pretty much to not take damage, besides, you know, their leadership and obviously bonus to supervillains. And I use the 5 skill for most damage. If I had Rogue on the team, I would definitely be using my co-op skill a lot, but the few times I used my co-op skill here, you see that I actually didn't have Gambit to attack. So when I'm not using Rogue, when I'm using a Gambit with any other team, I usually use my co-op skill when I have switched out Gambit and have another character in play. So you can see it's not a fight that can live without taking any damage. Obviously, you know, I could be more careful and not take any damage if I wanted, but I just wanted to show you that it's definitely possible to do this fight, and definitely possible to use Gambit the way we have it, you know, and the way it is here. So that's my 2 cents on Gambit. I hope you like this video. This is one of the first videos I'm doing in English, and that's, you know, because I have most of Brazilian audience Portuguese. I have 2 main reasons. You know, people for quite a while have been telling me to do videos in English, and the other thing is that, you know, Netmarble now has the Star Agent program, so they require me to do at least 4 videos in English so they can understand what I'm saying. So that's my review of Gambit. That's my 2 cents on him. I hope you like it, and, you know, leave your comments below. See you next time.